Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Walking Dead. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, let's catch up with Maggie and them all in that, apartment building complex and dealing with the people from the Commonwealth, Carlson and his group. So they're still, right, we got to find these missing guns. And that is the thing of right. At the end of the day, we do, jumping around a little bit, we do find out that they Ian and his people did not steal the guns, even though Aaron and Maggie and them were asking those questions. I even love Annie's I'm tired. Oh, so you're calling us liars? I'm tired of them asking these questions, because the moment they find out it's Negan in the middle of all of this, they're like, oh, how do we know? We definitely can't trust you because, well, Ian seemed like a psychopath. He might have been saying that just to scare people away, because he did make it clear that his first and foremost intention was protecting the people he cared about. So either that's some terrible stuff he did for the sake of scaring people away, or that was just BS. None of that was real. It's just skulls we found to make it seem like that's what we did. Just trying to create a boogeyman story to scare them away and to never come back. That might be how they kind of get people to stay away. Or legitimate, it's now let's kill people and make an example out of people. Maybe there's who will never fully know the truth. You'd probably have to ask Negan and them to really get a good feel for that story in that regard of what to take away from what Ian said last episode about the skulls and everything. But I did like that it's they run into Annie first, but then she gets surrounded, and I love Negan's yeah, her name's Maggie, and they're just Negan? Is yep. And I love he's tapping Elijah yeah, just how about we all just put it all back in our pants and zip up. But once again, it's because it's Negan. Even Maggie, they did not have much interaction in this episode. They had a few lines of dialogue exchanging, but they never talked. They have not talked to each other since he left, because he's yeah, if I stay, you're never going to forgive me. You're going to kill me, just like how you basically killed all of Leah's people. Which, speaking of which, I'll talk about it more later on, but it's no, that's come back full circle. And the argument could be that is on Maggie, her need for revenge. It's an endless cycle and that's the sad reality of this world. It's just an endless cycle of violence. And I think that story, that element in itself can be even reflected amongst not just Maggie and Negan's relationship, but even Negan and Herschel's relationship. And since I'm on the topic, I'll go ahead and talk about it. Is the fact is that you have Herschel pulling a gun on Negan because he's right, how do you know my mom told me to stay away from you? Why is that? He's well, I did something a long time ago that led to me and your mom having issues. And it's was it something bad? And he's yeah, it was. And Herschel pulled a gun on him. He's my mom told me a bad man killed my dad. Was that you? And Negan's yes, it was me. He's you would be within your rights to kill me. He's maybe I do deserve to die for what I did to your dad. What I did to your dad, what I did to your family was terrible. But at the end of the day, you killing me, if you shoot me right now, all those bad people will know where we are. No one here deserves to die because of me. If I deserve to die, that's one conversation. But no one else here deserves to die. And he has that conversation with Herschel later on when he's right, you go back home with your mom, you help her rebuild Hilltop, you get a couple years older, you've come find me, and then we settle this. That's when you come get your revenge. And I think that's so interesting, because if he kills Negan, it's just going to feed into the cycle, because we find out that Negan's not only remarried, which I don't know. I don't think any of them know the story about Lucille. Obviously, we got a bonus episode about it, but I swear he's talked about it, Lucille, before. That he named the bat after her and everything, I want to say. Or is that just outside the show knowledge that was kind of brought about when we got introduced to the real Lucille, who's played by his real life wife. Once again, I always love that type of stuff when actors are oh yeah, your significant other, your real life significant other plays your significant other in some shape or form, and something you're, regardless tangents and all that side. But I wonder, I don't think Maggie and them knows. If it was anything, maybe Gabriel, because Negan and Gabriel spent enough time around each other, one-on-one, that I could definitely see that story having come, because I just can never remember the one-on-one conversations they had a couple seasons ago. And I'm talking about back when he was still like head of the saviors and stuff. But I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I feel like generally no one else would know that story about Lucille. So probably to no one else, it's like, oh, you're married? Because even Lydia's like, oh, you're married? He's like, probably doesn't talk about the fact is this is actually his second time getting married, because we now have the context of the tragedy that was his relationship, that his wife was sick and she basically killed herself so that she wouldn't be, in her mind, a burden on him, you know? And that all kind of sadly led to him becoming the man that he is today. But that's my point. Really quickly, like, we find out that Annie's pregnant. So eventually, like, oh, you killed my dad. Is like, but then eventually Negan's child will grow up and be like, well, you killed my dad. And just be this forever feud between these two families. Maggie's not quick to forget about it, and so Annie's like, Negan already told me everything that he did, and he regrets. But she's like, and you're still with him regardless. It's like, because at the end of the day, and yes, the child is his. At the end of the day, we've all done stuff. None of us can walk away and say we're innocent. And then she's like, I've had terrible stuff done to me, and I've done terrible stuff to other people. At the end of the day, I know who he is now, and that's what matters. Because at the end of the day, what matters is that we try to be better. And for Maggie, it's like, he doesn't get to forget. And he's like, he hasn't. He doesn't. He hasn't forgotten what he did. Because the thing is, and that's always the thing too, Negan will feel like no matter what I do, I will never change in everyone's eyes. And it is that frustrating thing. And I even love that Jeffrey Dean Morgan talked about it. Like, he got, early on in the season about like the whole, he made some remark that he said, like, I tried so hard to fight having to say that line, because it's like, basically for him, it's like, Negan's made so much progress. I don't feel, but then like when the scene played out, he was like, man, these fuckers got me. That's actually, it worked so perfectly. Like, seeing it acted out, I think it gave him a little more like, no, it was necessary. It was needed, because regardless of anything, he might be a better person. That asshole that Negan was is still there somewhere. He still has that asshole in him, but that still shows that he is a continuous work in progress. Is he near the person that he was? No, but there's still grains enough in there, and that's all it takes for Maggie to be like, fuck Negan. Is like that piece of him that's still who he was before. That's all she needs, because in her defense, it's like, it's proof in her mind that he hasn't changed. He showed that he doesn't change. The fact is, he was willing to let Maggie die. To be fair, she was threatening to kill him. Like, he's forever got a guillotine above his head, just waiting for, I guess a more apt description is she's the executioner, or it still works either way. Executioner, guillotine, whichever way you want to, like, depending on how you want to look at it. Whether it's just, the executioner pulling the string, the bring down the guillotine, or just an old-fashioned executioner with the axe in hand. Whatever the case may be, she's there, and he's forever, like, yeah, I can constantly feel the blade getting closer and closer to my neck either way. And, it's always up to her discretion whenever she finally decides, you know what, screw it, I'm done, bam, I'm going to kill you, and that's why he left in the first place. It's like, I'm not going to wait around for you to ultimately decide that, because the way you treated Lee and her people made me realize, like, you're never going to forgive me. You hold a longer, deeper grudge with me than them, and you still killed all of them. It's been years between us, and you still haven't forgiven me for Glenn, which she has every right not to forgive you, because forgiveness is on that person's part. You can't really, like, because forgiveness is usually like, oh, it's meant to make you feel better. It's like, I want this person to forgive me. It's not for their sake. It's usually for your own. In this case, yeah, it would be for Negan's sake. So I'm going on this whole diatribe, but I love that element, but he is trying to make it up to him, because he is going to be like, right, I'm giving you this opportunity. Because at no point did he try to talk Herschel down. It's like, right, you don't want to have to have blood on your hands. It's like, no, because I can't make that promise to you, kid. Like, you won't have blood on your hands, because everyone, kid or not, has had blood on their hands. I think Judith's managed to not get to that point, but eventually it will get to that point where even she'll have blood on her hands. There's no getting out of this world unscathed, sadly. You're going to have blood on your hands one way or another. Not just like Walker blood, but just like regular humans, just because of the nature of this world and just the nature of humans when we are in such a desperate dystopian situation. So, dystopia might not be the right word. I'll just go with the apocalyptic. But So I thought that was interesting. Even Maggie later on being like, what did that man say to you? And Herschel doesn't say anything. But because I'm curious, because once again, Maggie, even at the end of it all, Maggie's still like, what did he say to you? Like, because I don't like the fact that he's talking to you. And Herschel, I'm wondering, will Herschel ever tell her? And it's like, no, probably not, because he wants to keep that to himself. He's going to help his mom get better, get stronger, get older. And then the moment I get the chance, I'm killing that bastard for killing my dad, for the pain he killed my dad and the pain he put my mom through. He needs to pay for that. So I think that element of it, he probably doesn't want his mom to worry, because it's like, right, if she finds out, she'll probably try and go ahead and kill Negan herself, or at the very least, she'll be worried about me and not want me to put... So we'll see if it ever comes out, what he said, but that also ties in, interestingly enough, with like Lydia being like, wow, you left without saying anything. Because I've talked about this previously too, Lydia really leaned on Negan. Even if it's like, yeah, he's a guy who killed your mom, but he's also like her, an outsider. Because I love that whole conversation about, it's like, right, everything going on here, it's like, it's not that bad. Like, you know, we got to go back to, you know, the Commonwealth. We found a place that's... is not like any other we've seen. And Lydia saying the line of, that's not true. They're just trying to conquer every other community. They're basically the Whisperers with different masks. I was like, oh, beautiful line. And of course, out of any character, of course, she'd have that perspective. Because as someone who is still somewhat an outsider from this community, because she knows what it's like to be on the outside. Like, she never did any terrible stuff, but she was still ostracized and lumped in with the everything terrible that the Whisperers ever did. And yes, Negan led the crusade and saviors, that, you know, everything that they did, the terrible stuff they done, he took part in it. Lydia, we don't know all the ins and outs of what she did, but it never seemed like she really was an active participant, despite her mom pushing her to be. So it is that element of, she can recognize the what this group is now, knowing like, wow, they've done some shady stuff like this. She's like, this is exactly what the Whisperers would do, like try and snuff out smaller communities that might be in their way. Like, she gets that the Commonwealth is all consuming. Once again, we know that they're not the only all consuming group out there. There's also the Republic as well, the Civic Republic. So, but I find that so interesting. But that's also why Negan was like, yeah, I had to leave. It was for the betterment of everyone, because everyone was always going to be uncomfortable, a little on edge. There was always going to be this tension in the air, because obviously Daryl has beef with me because of the whole Maggie. I mean, he's had beef with me since then, because there's a little bit of like, obviously Daryl always carries some guilt about the Glenn thing, but also, you know, because also he has like Maggie's back, because Glenn was family, Maggie's family, so he's got her back regardless. So there was always going to be that tension, so there's no point in him sticking around, you know, so. But it's definitely going to be interesting, because now it's like the conversation of like, well, what do we do now? Do we go back to the Commonwealth? And it's like, well, we kind of have no choice but to, because we need to get to Hornsby before he finds out about what happened here and kind of clear it up. But it's like, yeah, it's not going to be long before he tracks down these people, so they've got to protect them. So now we're getting into when that 6-month time skip happened, when Daryl rolls up, we now know he's taking orders from the Commonwealth, and he has to roll up on, and probably doesn't have the full context for everything, but he knows Maggie enough to know, like, right, if Maggie's doing this, she has to have her reason. So probably is going to put him and Rosita in a very complicated position, because even this episode, get to see kind of like this shadier side of the Commonwealth. Even Carol is starting to see it, but we'll get to that soon enough. But oh no, we'll be getting into it now. But I'm really interested to see. No. I forgot. There's still so much to finish up. Sadly, Carlson and his people did go in, wiped out a whole bunch of people. But it came down to it, wiped everyone else out. Like, they had to be tactical about it, and led like Carlson and a few of his people to the rooftop. Elijah like putting them down, and then it came down to Carlson. He's like, all right, like, I love, he's like, he's the one that got things pop. He was the one that popped off first, and now he wants to act cool and calm, like, okay, let's be level-headed here. It's like, really, motherfucker? After literally barreling through this building and killing so many people. A lot of those people are probably unarmed. A lot of them we definitely know were begging for their lives, and you still kill them regardless. because you didn't stop to be like, maybe they don't have the weapons. It's like, no, you were a blunt object pointing in a certain direction. That's what Lance wanted. Like, he didn't ever consider, like, maybe you didn't actually take the weapons. Maybe it could have been a setup to throw them off their track, to be like, oh, it's someone else, pointing it towards, like, led everything to believe it was the people in this building, which we'll get to. Well, I'll go ahead and get to it after this, but I keep jumping around subjects like that. I'm sorry. But then you get to the whole, like, Carlson thing, and it's like, oh, please, and like Aaron like popped him, like, good. And the moment he fell back, I was like, oh, please don't be dead. And he's not dead. I'm like, yes. Only reason why, because I was like, please, yes, those walkers. Oh, it's poet. Oh, the poet. The irony, the poetry, the eye for an eye element to it. The is it Hammurabi's code? I always, God, it's been forever since history class, world history class. I want to say it was Hammurabi's code, the whole eye for an eye type of punishment. But yeah, I love that. I'm like, yes, you bastard, after everything you did. I'm kind of bummed you're only around for 2 episodes, but like, there's no way. I was like, well, bad guys do get to kind of walk away and come back, speaking of. And kind of do their thing. So I love the big question though. Well, who stole the guns? And I was like, who could have stolen the guns? I was like, what other group is really out there doing that? And it wasn't until we saw that person walking, I was like, what? And we saw the tattoo. I was like, oh, fucking Leah. Of course, her entire family's dead. So I'm wondering, is she arming up, trying to gun for Maggie? Or is it like she's trying to pit these groups against each other? Like, is she like, because she's kind of alone right now, so she's probably very like, now I'm gonna wipe everything out. I'm gonna make all of you pay for what you've done. So it might be a situation of she's trying to force the situation and force these 2 groups to like eventually collide or something. I don't think, not like, you never know what she's been keeping an eye on amongst them. But like, I like to reveal that it was Leah. It's like, right, once again, proof of how revenge comes full circle. Because it's like, if Maggie hadn't probably killed her entire family, if she had at least let her walk away with what was left of her family, maybe things would be a different story. I don't know. The fact is, Daryl also let you live, but it's like, once again, it's like revenge. You don't let that go. Look at Maggie. Maggie didn't let go of her revenge twice. She's borderlining letting things go with Negan, but it's not even borderlining, because she won't. Every time she looks at him, it's a constant reminder. So the Leah stuff is definitely going to be interesting. I'm thinking at the end of the day, Daryl is going to end up being the one that has to kill her to put her down, because it's like, right, he's the one that let her go in the first place. So we'll see how that all turns out. But speaking of Daryl at the Commonwealth, him and Rosita working, and I love that she's like, really? You're playing into the stereotype. He's like, what? No, I like donuts way before I even became a cop. Shut up. I love that. He tried to offer her one. But the moment he embarrassed Sebastian, I was like, oh, this is going to be an issue. So when those guards was like, yo, you got to do this, it's like, oh, your shift is covered. I'm like, I don't think that. It's like, Sebastian's taking you out somewhere because you embarrassed him. And it's like, he's like, hell yeah. I'm like, because he was trying to act all tough. Like, that's why I'm like, why start? At first I was like, why are you starting shit with Daryl? Daryl helped you out. He made you look good by being like, oh yeah, made you look like you were the one that captured Home Dude a couple episodes ago. So why are you acting like a dick now? Well, it's probably because Daryl embarrassed him, and like him and Rosita and the others kind of laughed about it. But it's like, right, it was mainly because of their skills. He needs it. It's like, yeah, there's a house over there. There's some money in there. I need you to get it for me. Yeah, mommy cut me off, so I need you to help me get a line of credit again. Okay, we actually got that, 2 episodes ago when we learned a little bit more about Mercer's sister. Like that episode where we kind of got more of her perspective on everything. We learned about Pamela deciding to cut Sebastian off to kind of get him back in line and stuff. So he sends Daryl and Rosita, and they're like, no. But then it's like, oh, about your kids, and it's like, did you just threaten our kids? It's like, no, we can make their life better, or we can make them orphans right now. It's like, oh, you guys suck. It's like, cool, get in there and get that money. So lathered up, go inside, and they find someone in there, April, which I have to look into. I was like, that actress looks so familiar. I've definitely seen her and stuff. I just can't think of her off the top of my head. Poor April. That sucks. You went in there, you were sent in there by other people. So I was like, oh, this has been a continuous thing? Oh, that sucks. And so it's like, right. So April went in there. The people she went in with, turned on each other. And she, locked herself in there. But the power went out after they had turned the generator on. The power went out. She got stuck in there. So God knows how long she's actually been. Well, because it's been a couple of days because Rosita was like, these bodies, like, it hasn't been that long since they turned. So it's been at least a couple of days she was trapped in there. So they've been doing this for God knows how long. Every so often sending more and more people in there. That probably also explains, like, every single effing walker in there. Probably like 70% of those walkers are people they sent in there to do the job and ended up getting killed in the process, adding to the wall of walkers that's already there. So turning the power on and everything, they were able to get to Jill, got the money, got out of there, luckily, because Mercer rolled up because, Carol was like, you missed lunch, so called Mercer, we got this all figured out, and it's like, wait, how many people came here with you? April was like, 12 people, I'm the only one left. It's like, you could tell Mercer was disgusted, because he knows how fucked everything in the Commonwealth is. He knows the ugly side of things, but it's like, right, it is that thing of, it's kind of for the greater good to some extent, because even though it's built on the backbone of so much terrible shit, it's like, so it gives people safety and a home. So it's like the good outweighs the bad to some extent. So he kind of flows, and he kind of, the terrible elements of the system aren't enough that, like, it doesn't outweigh the good that the system brings, is kind of the point. So luckily they got through it. Sadly, April ended up getting ripped to pieces. It's like, just like that, because no one had any ammo to kind of get to him. By the time they do, she got ripped to pieces. So it's like, cool, go to see those guys. And it's like, how many people have you? And Mercer was like, how many people did you send in? And they're like, I don't know, 30, 40. The fact is you could say 30, 40, not blink a damn eye. They're like, yeah, good thing you got money. I was like, Mercer's pissed, ain't he? I expected him to pull out his blade. He put out the gun. Bop, bop. It's like, I was like, yeah, good thing. They deserved it. But he's like, yeah, you're going to have to pay Sebastian. They're like, what? He still gets paid at the end? He's like, if you want to go up against Sebastian, that is a battle you will not win, because the man's got too much power, influence. Being Pamela's son, like, she will cut him off and this and that, but any backlash on him is going to make her look bad, so she would go out of her way to defend her son just to protect herself. It's out of her own self-interest. Plus, once again, she's a mom too, so, like, I think there is an element of, I just care about my child, but I think it's more so like a, no, like I said, I think it's mainly a self-preservation thing. So they pay him, and Sebastian's so happy. He's like, oh, here's your cut of it. And just like, everyone looks disgusted. Daryl's disgusted. Rosita's disgusted. Mercer's disgusted. Because it's like, oh, where's everyone else? Those two guards. And it's like, oh, they didn't make it. He's like, huh, oh well. And he just, because he's such a self-entitled asswipe. You're just like, oh, I hate you, kid. You suck. I say kid. I mean, God knows. Like, I don't even know how old the actor is, because he's probably like my age. I mean, for all I know, he might even be younger. But like, it's like, God, you are a garbage person. Oh, you suck. Once again, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the dynamic with I think you could draw a parallel between this and the whole OG Alexandria before Rick and his team arrived. Like, I think you could see a little bit of a parallel between when it comes to the leadership thing. That's just what immediately comes to my mind. So, and I love that Carol brought this to Lance's attention. It's like, yeah, it's kind of messed up. It's like, oh, your friend's okay? He's like, good. I thought he was going to say, like, damn it, Sebastian. I thought he was going to try and sway her to be like, oh, Sebastian, the way things run here, they suck. But what he does, in fact, is double down. He's like, oh, finally someone got the money. And she's like, what? He's like, yeah. I mean, he's like, those people that got sent in, they screwed up in some shape or form, whether they didn't follow the rules or they just screwed up in their own right. That was he was like, to basically make up for the mistakes they made, whatever it may have been, they were given an out, so they took the opportunity to be back in the places, the Commonwealth's good grace. And it's kind of like, yeah, everything's for the greater good. And if you challenge that, and, Carol plays into it, she's like, right, if you're a part of the problem and not the solution, then we have a problem. And he's like, thank you. I'm glad someone gets it. She's like, no, I get it. I'll see it. He's like, Carol, I'm glad to have someone who really understands the bigger picture. She's like, yeah, you're welcome. And she walks away and frowns. It's like, the problem is, Carol cares about the people she cares about. So you saying that they're not part of the bigger picture, that's immediately like nah, you're on my shit list, Lance. Because also the problem is, like, right, you'll make... because it's almost like a give and take relationship of how this the Commonwealth works. And so it's kind of like, right, if you're not doing something for the greater good, like, it's just, you already know she's probably thinking in her head, like, all right, how can this Ezekiel thing be used against us? It's like, right, Lance, like, I went to him because I knew he'd be the guy to be able to make deals, but realizing, like, how much of a scumbag he is, plus those are people she cares about, like, these are her people, Rosita and Daryl, and it's like, right, you're so quick to throw them, you're just as bad as Sebastian. So you're kind of all cut from the same cloth. And once again, like, they are the political people in this situation. I'm sure, like, the whole thing is kind of a commentary on, like, cool, if you're a powerful figure, like, I'm the child of someone powerful. Do you know who my mom is? Type of thing. So, and Lance is just someone drunk off his own power, trying to get more power because, once again, still trying to do his own thing. So, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us with this. This was episode 14. There's only 2 episodes left this section of the season, which is, I mean, it's kind of wild to think about, too. It's like, wow, we're I don't know why it seems like, I guess because also in my head, I'd be thinking, like, right, like, if this was, like, any other season, it'd be like, oh, this is, like, we'd be in the season finale, like, we'd be trudging towards the season finale, but it's like, yeah, we're in the season finale of season 11, part B. But yeah, it's like, man, it's kind of crazy to think, like, I'm curious if the final episode going to be long or not, of the final episode of the series. I'm curious about that. Yeah, but, like, literally only 10 episodes of The Walking Dead left. It's kind of wild to think about. It just feels like, I guess it's like, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago, like, season B started. I guess because also, like, AMC doesn't really take breaks for most of its shows. So, like, and especially a show like Walking Dead, which each section, half of the season is only 8 episodes. So that runs through pretty quickly. So, even more so with AMC Plus, because stuff it gets aired and, like, it, so, like, real AMC Plus wise, there's only 1 episode left. But just AMC wise, just because, like, AMC Plus is like an episode ahead. But regardless, I'm going on a tangent and stuff like that. I'm very excited to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. Caught a glimpse of it. I immediately was like, end the episode, walk away because I don't want to know anything. But Lance is going to have some questions about everything that went down. So we shall see. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.